That feels nice. So, I'm sure some of you are quite familiar about some movie trilogies out there. In fact, I'm sure right now you can even think of a few, like, right instantly. And that could depend on which ones that you could think of, depending on the quality. There are great ones, there are highly beloved ones that have a massive cult following, and then there are those that are not. Nah, but the one that I want to talk about has often been considered to be one of the best, where each and every single movie in there is often considered a masterpiece in their own right. But at the same time, this is one of the more unusual trilogies out there. One that it doesn't connect itself, but at the same time, it does. Where each and every single one of the movies that are in this trilogy, they are vastly different and narratively different, where there is no connection to them in terms of a story, where all the characters are different, all the stories are different, and even the genre that they represent are totally different. However, at the same time though, like I said before, they all do connect in a rather different way, which is why I said that this is a very unusual trilogy. Now, what I'm talking about, of course, is a trilogy you might be familiar that is often referred to as the Three Flavors Cornetto Trilogy.
Okay, here's a quick rundown of what it is in case you forgot. You got three films that are totally different from one another. A zombie film with some romance called Shaun of the Dead, a buddy cop comedy called Hot Fuzz, and an apocalyptic sci-fi flick called The World's End. Narratively, they have nothing to do with each other, and not one character would come back in another movie. Well, I mean within the trilogy. But if that's the case, why is it even considered a trilogy? Well, it's not about the stories they tell, but rather how they were all made. The way that all these movies were crafted are so similar that they feel like they're all part of the same film family. In fact, if you look at the people involved and the filmmaking style of each of them, they're all nearly identical. They all star Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, Edgar Wright was the director, Nira Park was a producer, Simon and Edgar also took on writing duties, they all incorporate the same themes, the comedy style is the same, and Wright's cinematic eye is prominent on each of them. Even some of the same actors appeared on all three movies, like Julia Deakin, Patricia Franklin, Martin Freeman, Garth Jennings, Bill Nighy, and Rafi Spall. They also end up with the same result, where they are all critically acclaimed and have gathered a large cult following. However, even with all these filmmaking connections, it still raises the question, why is it even called the Three Flavored Cornetto Trilogy? Well, if there is one thing in the movies they all have in common outside of the people, it's that they all have at least one scene where the characters eat a cone of Cornetto, with each flavor representing their respective genre. Shaun of the Dead has red strawberry, Hot Fuzz has the original blue, and The World's End has the green mint chocolate chip. The Cornettos may not have served much to the plots, but they do have a better purpose in life.
I used to use them as a hangover cure when I was at college. If I got really drunk, I was really hungover, I would eat a Cornetto, because for some reason that seemed to work for me.
Of course, I'm not going to be talking about the entire trilogy all at the same time. I just want to bring this up in order to go and prepare for you for what I'm going to be talking about specifically. And the flavor of today that I have ordered is going to be the original blue. Yes, among all the movies in the trilogy, Hot Fuzz seems to be the one that is often considered the most favorite of them all, and often the most quoted at the same time. Now, this is not to say that the others aren't massive, beloved favorites as well, but the Fuzz really seems to be the one that really did go and capture a lot of people's hearts. And in my case, I feel like this review is actually the perfect opportunity for me to go and complete the trilogy. Yes, folks, believe it or not, I have only seen Shaun of the Dead and The World's End, but I have yet to actually go and see Hot Fuzz for myself. Well, I guess that's more just in terms of convenience, but I guess that's how things kind of fall out that way. But don't worry, the good news is, since this review exists, this is actually the moment I can actually go and see the movie for myself, to actually go and check out what's with Hot Fuzz and why is it so beloved by so many people out there? And the fact that I can actually go and complete the trilogy to see how all these movies would go and connect to one another. That, and mainly I'm doing this because it's a Patreon request, but that's just minor details. So, now that I did go and get a little taste of Hot Fuzz, I can actually see now that with the original Blue, this thing, it is bursting with flavor.
For the original Blue, the story centers on the policeman Nicholas Angel.
Officer.
He was too good at his job that the London Metropolitan Police Service moved him to a little town called Sandford, a harmless village where there's barely any crime, and he gets paired up with a bumbling and naive cop that's also the inspector of the force's son, Danny Butterman. However, as he keeps eyeing on the events of the town, something becomes a lot clearer.
There's always something going on, Danny.
What makes Hot Fuzz often considered a movie that's equally as strong as its comedy is how it knows the right balance of when to be funny and when it has to take itself seriously, where the humor comes from the ridiculous nature of the environment around the people and the dynamic between Simon Pegg and Nick Frost's characters, where Frost is the more childlike goofball, while Pegg plays the strict straight man, resulting in a strong duo that can have some memorable funny moments.
That was quite an impressive haul today, Constable Butterman.
Well, you know, I mean, maybe we should do something to celebrate. Unless you got to water your peace lily.
What exactly did you have in mind?
I don't know. Pub?
And yet, those points of the comedy can also apply to the moments that are taken seriously. While things can get quite crazy in the little town, it's the momentum of the story that helps get audiences engaged with what's happening, as it slowly unravels the mystery of Sandford, and while the explanations of what's going on can get comically bizarre, they also oddly make a lot of sense in terms of the residents' behavior. That and the main duo are not just comically good, but even how they are developed and executed are what made them great as characters. They both have their set of problems. Even as awesome as a cop Angel can be, he's too focused on his work where he can't just relax and have a sociable life. Both Angel and Butterman work well with each other because they need each other and have to learn from each other to fix up their issues. Sure, as aloof as Danny can be, he can show Nicholas what it means to have a friend and to have a life outside of working, even if it is just drinking at the pub and watching movies.
Power of Grayskull. Point Break or Bad Boys 2?
The balance between honoring and satirizing the genre that it represents has always been the core of the Cornetto trilogy, and the examples that I brought up are only a few examples in terms of how Hot Fuzz would go and do it very well. In fact, I have even yet to get into the element of how they represent the genre itself.
As with the tradition of the trilogy, the film's specialty is the way that it both satirizes and reinvents the genre it's based on, which in this case is the buddy cop action flick. It would often poke fun of the way the other officers would be during these films, seen as lazy, being a dick to the protagonist, or just dumb, even when the evidence is clearly right in front of them. Another way that it parodies them is by pointing out the cliches that would usually be in these movies, most commonly from Danny with his aspirations of being a cop living in a movie like Point Break and saying cool catchphrases.
There was a bit earlier on that you missed when I distracted him with the cuddly monkey, and then I said playtime's over, and I hit him with the peace lily.
You're fucking changed!
As for the part that it honors those action films, in a way, the movie itself tries to be like those films, but really emphasizes on the fun aspect. To see justice get served when things don't seem to fit right around the main cop. To really get down with all the investigations on the crimes, and to serve a grand finale to go completely over the top with action where gunfire, fights, and explosions are all over the place to keep a high intensity. It's like the movie is saying, yeah, we know these films can be dumb, but here's why we love them so much. The only downside with its format is that once you get into the nature of the tone, it can be predictable to figure out what's actually happening behind the doors of Sandford. If the feature itself is all around ridiculous, then it's not hard to figure out a possible ridiculous answer to all the crimes occurring in the town. However, that's just a minor criticism, especially when the other elements are worth admiring, and they more than make up whatever problems that the movie has. The acting in general is fantastic that keeps their characters believable and can have a share of their funny moments, and Edgar Wright's fast-paced editing that features elaborate shots cleverly connects in ways that both help to tell the story and feel like it's crafting an illusion.
We like to let them think they run the place.
Well, that's that, unless there's anything you're unclear about.
This is the kind of film that not only knows what it's trying to do, but also it knows exactly who it wants to do it for. It's not every day that you would go and find a parody movie that also wants to be a really good film on its own based on the genre that it's satirizing in the first place. And with Hot Fuzz, it's not every day that you would go and find this buddy cop film that doesn't necessarily take itself too seriously, to the point that now it actually got creative liberties where it can be fully creative and also do whatever it wants, to the point that it can make the genre feel new and exciting again. In a way, it's almost as if it does its job so well that the movie didn't intend to actually be that good.
Hot Fuzz is a wonderfully crafted comedy that's great as an action-packed buddy cop film as much as it makes fun of the features of the same genre. Almost every element is well made to ensure a unique and snappy experience about two cops with opposite personalities trying to solve a mystery in a little town. The acting is top-notch, the writing is highly engaging, the comedy is enjoyable, the tone is perfectly balanced, and the editing is admirable as an Edgar Wright film should be. It's a reminder to why people like action flicks and why they can be so fun and goofy at the same time. Which is why I recommend this as a must-watch to those who like action and cop films. Not only is it a great one, but it is also one that's self-aware of its own ridiculous nature. As for a rating, a movie like this that's so well put together easily deserves a 9 out of 10. It was a blast checking this film out, and that's why I'd be happy to give this the AniMat's seal of approval. You don't need a special flavor to make this Cornetto tasty.
So, now that I have seen this movie, I can finally understand the whole point of this trilogy. Like, now I finally do get the Cornetto trilogy. The way that these movies are connected is not necessarily to tell one big story through 3 different feature films, but rather to go and set up a goal for each and every single movie and for the genre that they each represent. Now, they are very well aware that these genres can often be stupid, but also really cool at the same time. Like, when you do look back into, like, some of the other Cornetto movies, like Shaun of the Dead, and also Of the World's End, you not only just understand about Edgar Wright's cinematic style, but also the way that it wants to represent those genres, to not necessarily show the fact about why these genres are great and the way that they would make great movies, but most importantly, they want to focus on the fun aspect. They want to show why these movies are fun. Yeah, they can be dumb. Yeah, they can be bad as well. But we want to see the reasons why we love them so much. Why are they so fun? And that's the main thing that these movies want to go and try to emphasize. And in the case of Hot Fuzz, it doesn't just want to be like Point Break and Bad Boys 2, but they admire it and they honor it as well. And trust me, there are a lot of examples in that film where it prominently shows.
Danny, let's roll. What are you thinking? Pub?
You can do a lot more when you don't take yourself seriously. And, just saying, trust me on that. See you later, dudes!
You want anything from the shop?
Cornetto.